Welcome back to Walk With TFB. Tim Bryson here, and as y'all know, I'm a Black millennial who is eager to have unfiltered conversation with authentic people centered on education, sport, and culture. Today, we are walking with a city builder, a content creator, and a podcaster. Originally born and raised in Nigeria, our guest moved to Canada, where she is currently taking the country by storm as a younger millennial disruptor. Similar to Walk With TFB, she started her own platform in 2020 entitled, But What Do I Know? She insists that we no longer hide behind the phrase, but what do I know? And instead is dedicated to helping us all confirm our knowledge, share our experiences, and learn from ourselves as well as each other. Y'all can tap into this platform and podcast and join the journey to self-discovery, as well as overcoming self-doubt through learning, unlearning, healing, and laughter. I discovered this podcast and platform, probably a few months ago now. I was immediately drawn to the stories, the experiences, and the facilitation style of this guest. So I'm very, very excited we are able to expand the Walk With TFB podcast with our first non-US guest. So without further ado, y'all help me welcome Chid, Suzan.
Hey, woo!
Hey, you the first one, homie.
Yeah.
You're the first
Canada
one.
up in the stand.
I'm crying, yo. Hey, I'm hyped for this conversation for a lot of different reasons, yo. But like, it's always interesting, like interviewing another podcaster, right?
Yeah.
Both in like this kind of setting, but also this, casual conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on the interviewer side. I've also been on the interviewee side. So I'm gonna ask of you on the interviewee side. Don't be trying to, jump the gun. Don't be trying to, think about what I'm gonna ask you next, right?
I'm a chill. I promise.
Just chill, have fun, my
I know,
friend.
because podcasters, we play the facilitator role. So we'd be like, okay, then maybe he'll ask this question next and I'll do that. Don't worry, I got you.
Just chill, my friend. Just chill. But like I said, I'm so hyped to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. Like, your platform is amazing. I think that I was telling you a little bit about this before we got on mic, but just like, I love the way that you facilitate conversations. You include, like your intellect, your words of wisdom. I remember one time, I think I had commented on one of your posts was something like, Black women are over mentored, but under sponsored. And I was like, I ain't never heard that. Like, I had never really heard of that term. So I love that you can, share such amazing conversations with us, but then you're still you. You're like, I'm a cuss, we chill, but we're still, making listeners think. So I definitely appreciate you for this platform. And thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. And thank you for your words. I receive it. I receive it. But I'm gonna save my first question for you until we get through this initial one. And one thing we've done different, especially this season, is asking an opening question. And that question, Chid, is what is bringing you Black joy right now?
What is bringing me Black joy right now? Honestly, this is very cliche, but my podcast, in a way, like having conversations with Black people, especially Black women, that's bringing me joy. Watching Black television, I just finished Insecure, I binged, so that was bringing me Black joy. Yep. Yeah, I would say Black TV shows, talking to other Black people, just listening to just talking to other people about our culture, about our music, seeing all the Black people that went back to Africa over the Christmas break and stuff, sharing all their videos and stuff. I'm like, wow, like the diaspora is so connected, so yeah, that's what's bringing me Black joy right now.
Things we love to see. This is good. This is really good, yo. And so again, like you intrigue me. Your podcast and your community intrigues me a lot, right? And I think anyone that knows me, knows my social media, they know I'm very enamored with just global culture. I'm not going to say international, but just global culture, right? Because international, I think, centers the U.S. I'm in that conversation in that language. And so being able to speak with you is going to be a unique conversation, but one that I think we all need to hear and will learn from and with along this journey. However, I pride myself, and I think anyone that's been on the pod will say the same thing. I pride myself on the introductions, right? Do all my research on introductions. I know what high school you went to, what college, everything, right? What you tweeted out 3 years ago. And I almost contacted, I don't know if it's Google is the right person, maybe it's, Apple. And I'm like, why? Like, what? How come I can't tap into the Canadian internet?
That's funny.
I just there had to be some sort of firewall. I don't know. I'm not gonna play the blame game. I could not find everything I wanted to find, yo.
Right.
But it's okay. We got you on the podcast, Chid. And so segment one, my favorite segment, and that segment is entitled "What is your story?" So Chid, what's your story?
So what is my story? That's a really great question. I guess I'll say, yeah, like you mentioned, I'm a younger millennial. I was born and spent like half of my childhood in Nigeria, West Africa. So, getting to see and grow up in that side of the world, understand that sort of lifestyle, seeing the good, the bad, and then, I didn't know because I was young, but my parents had been going through this immigration process of, like applying and trying because they're both pharmacists. So at the time, Canada really needed pharmacists back then. But I didn't know this at the time. My dad recently told me actually that the whole 9/11 thing actually delayed our process of getting our papers and stuff to be able to come, right? Because whatever affects the US also affects Canada. So one day in 2006, my parents, we flew to Lagos, and Lagos is like it's a major city. We flew to Lagos International Airport. And then we came to Canada. And at that time, I didn't really understand what was going on. I was just like, okay, we're here, different setting. You're young, you're trying to acclimatize and get used to this environment. But I lived in Toronto at the time. So right now I live in a suburb just outside of Toronto. So I still claim Toronto. But at the time I lived in the inner city, and I was surrounded by a lot of Black people. So it was great, like the support, the culture. If you're Canadian, the West End, Jane and Finch is where a lot of Black, particularly African immigrants, make their first stop when they come to Canada. So then from there, I moved to Pickering, which is a town just outside of Toronto, after a few years when we were able to sort of, stabilize and all that. And then I was surrounded again by a lot of whiteness now because you're in suburbs. So, I had a hard time sort of adjusting. This is my teen years, just trying to find myself, understand myself, that kind of thing. And it was when I went to university. So I went to Ryerson University. You can Google that when you find it. Went to Ryerson and I studied city planning. And then I joined the African Students Association, became president of that. And then I started to, get back into my culture more, understand, like Afro beats. Because obviously I live at home, and like my parents would never let us forget our culture, everything. But just to be surrounded by that outside of the home was just so amazing. And I think so what has sort of, like shaped and is still shaping my story is this idea of like dual citizenship, whatever, you want to refer to it as, is just being able to have seen that side of the world and then seeing this side, understanding the good, the bad, how they both work. And now it's like I'm at a point where I'm like, how do I want this to tell my story? Like, do I want to live on this part of the world? Do I want to live on the other side? And we're getting to a point in life now where it's like, okay, work remotely, so I'm like, how do I give back to the continent that I'm from? How do I want to serve them? So it's interesting, especially like I feel like when you're a first generation immigrant, you have one foot here and one foot there. So like my parents right now, they don't plan on staying in Canada for that long. Like it's once we retire, we out, 6 months here, 6 months there. So I think that's what sort of shaped my story, is this sort of like dual childhood, seeing both sides, seeing the good and bad of both, and just recognizing that like, I kind of essentially right now have two homes. And I know a lot of people come to this part of the world and they want to forget where they're from because you did come here for quote unquote better life in a way, but I feel like I'll never really forget, and I feel like there's this obligation I have to serve once I get to a certain point in my life. So yeah,
This is
it's a
good.
bit about my story.
No, we're gonna dive deeper into this. We got to dive deeper into this, right?
For sure.
The part I want to start with, and this has been a theme, especially with the last few weeks, a few episodes, right? It's mandatory. It's mandatory, right? It's our responsibility. We got to get back. We got to invest. And one thing you just said is like, not forget where you're from. And as I think about this, especially as someone, again, you were born and raised in Nigeria, migrated to Canada, in your late early double digit years.
Exactly.
But you have an idea, right? You have a place, you have an image, you have footing and grounding in knowing where you're from.
Exactly. And I've been back twice since then, twice or three times since then. Yeah.
Okay. But as someone like myself, and every time recently someone in the US asks where I'm from, I'm like, how slavery works. Like, I
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And so talk to us more about that, especially being, as you mentioned earlier, right? Being an African Canadian. I put that in air quotes, if you will.
Yeah.
But talk to us more about like how you even have discovered along the way, like what when you have 1 foot in one country, 1 foot in another, or when you have 2 feet in one and maybe not any in the other. Like talk to us more about the nuances of that, especially through childhood, but also as you enter your collegiate years as well.
So for me, I guess the nuance would be like, first of all, the way that this culture and society operates is slightly different than, well, not slightly, there are differences
Sure.
to between Nigeria and here. I think one is just everything here is tracked, everything here is monitored, everything here, and we're also like, I mean, I know that the Western society wants to paint that side of the world as a very, like third world country, air quotes, needing help, underdeveloped, and so on. Yes, that's true. And yes, poverty is a very real thing. And the gap between we'll say the upper class and the lower class is stark. I think that's the difference, is that on this side of the world, you have more of a middle class to sort of support the lower class, and then to sort of be that middle between the lower and upper, right? The gap between that on the other side of the world, especially in Nigeria, is stark. But one thing about it is, if you are able to work and gain some capital for yourself on that side of the world, there's a sense of happiness that you have over there that you may not have here. I can't lie to you. I feel like if you have money over there, it stretches a little bit longer. Maybe it's the currency exchange. I don't know what it is, but it stretches a little bit longer. There's a sense of it's slowed down. Like something as simple as when I was over there, my aunt was late. She had to go to work. She was a school teacher. She had to go to work and she was running late, and her daughter still helped her make breakfast. She sat down and she ate her breakfast. If I'm late here, I'm not eating, or I'm eating that burger on the subway and I'm running and I'm trying to catch a train and I'm hitting my car. Like, it's just like, there's so much. It's constantly go, 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 right?
True.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a sense of things are a little bit slowed down. Obviously, I think that also depends on what city you live in. If you're going to like Lagos or Abuja, which are the economic cities, Abuja is the capital city, you're going to feel that hustle and bustle, right? But I think there's just this sense of happiness, even though we may not have all the material things that I like that exist in that part of the world.
So that's dope. So you mentioned both your parents are pharmacists.
Yeah.
So education.
That immigrant.
Come on now.
Oh.
Come on, man. That was on one. I remember you talked about that on one of your podcast episodes, right? And I hear it. I see it even in the U.S. with first generation immigrants in U.S. higher ed. There's pressure to go STEM, right? To go business. But you went to Ryerson and chose city planning.
Yes.
So two part. Why Ryerson? Because I am familiar with Ryerson actually.
Okay.
And then how city planning? Like the hell.
No, he said the hell. And I like that you said that. So this was the thing, right? And again, one of the reasons why first generation immigrant parents will push you towards STEM and things is because of the stability and the assurance, right? They know that if you go to school and you study medicine, you're going to have a job as a doctor. You may have to search for a few months, but you will get that job. You'll be able to maintain that job. We'll always need doctors. We'll always need healthcare professionals. You always need engineers, right? They don't really like it when you start to wander into the writing and liberal arts stuff. They're not too sure about that. But it's also because in Nigeria, that's what you see. Education is like a gateway to more money and changing your lifestyle and upgrading your economic status, right? So that's why they believe in education so much, right? You can't blame them. Things are changing now. It's hard to get it through their head that things are changing now. But yeah, so to your question, I went to Ryerson. Before that, I had a geography and law teacher in high school, and her husband worked for the province doing like municipal planning stuff. And at this time, my parents were like, we understand, you're not going to study STEM. You're more on the writing side of the world. You like to speak. Lawyer, because every person who likes to write and speak should be a lawyer. I was like, all right, law. Okay, cool. And of course, here to study law is a second degree. So you got to do an undergrad, right? So this teacher had recommended to me and my parents, why doesn't your daughter study urban planning, like urban and city planning? Because, after she does the 4 years, she can still go study law. And if she likes city planning, then she can practice city planning. It's still a professional degree so that you can work right after your 4 years, right?
Dope. Makes sense.
Right. So my mom was like, okay, great. My daughter's going to be a lawyer. This is going to be fantastic. And then in my second, third year, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of liking the city planning thing, because I'm going to tell you now, it's a very low-key field in Canada. And it's a field that a lot of white people are reaping, enjoying the money. It is like very quiet money. So if you're a Black person and you're really interested in things like gentrification, land development, all that kind of stuff, go look into city planning. Go look into that. I promise you there's a lot of policy and change that you can make in that field that a lot of people don't know about. So that was something that I was discovering in second and third years. Okay, I can make some change. I can help Black communities. I can be part of the people that are making these policies. I can tell some of these condo developers, why don't you chill? Why don't you do more townhouses? Like I could affect change in a positive way. And then I could, if I really, as I grew, I could take this back to Nigeria and help develop some cities in a sustainable way. So that was why I ended up, going to city planning and like sticking with it, and I liked it. And then as by third, fourth year, I was like, bro, law is out the window. I'm not. I was like, I'm sorry, mom. Like, I'm not going to law school no more. I really like this. I can make money off of this. I'll apply my ass off. I'll get a job, that's it. So I think for me now, like, I'm privileged to be in a space where education for me is like a route to higher learning, like something to just have a better understanding of the world. I know that's a very privileged thing to say, because not a lot of people can see education like that, right? Like to a lot of people, education is that route to money, which is why not all of us get to study what we like, right? Like especially that first degree. You might need your foot in that. You might need your foot in a particular industry. Your parents might want you to study one thing while your passion is another. So I think for me right now, education has sort of moved from I want to make money, I need money, to now it's like I want to make money, but I also want to make an impact. So yeah.
Shit. Let me ask you. I love Drake. We're gonna talk about Drake a little bit later.
I knew it.
That's my guy. But I have been to Canada. I've been to Toronto once or twice. I've been to Montreal once.
Did you? Oh, okay. You have never been to Toronto?
I've been once or twice.
Okay. Did you come for a Carabana weekend? Was that when you came?
Nah, yo, that's on yo, Carabana and OVO Fest is like, oh my gosh.
That's where the city makes their money.
I mean, now I got somewhere to stay. Shit, let me get a couch, man. Let me get an air mattress or something. Come on, homie.
Exactly. That weekend, if I tell you, is full of Americans.
I bet. I see it.
Yeah.
But Drake said in one of his songs something about riding a TTC. You got anything to do with that?
Oh, yes. So TTC, yeah, that's like our public transit.
Yeah.
It runs the subway and the buses and stuff. So yeah, I actually used to work for a transit organization that helped to plan transit. But right now I'm more focused on like housing, land related issues.
Yeah.
I still like transit, I still feel like transit is dope and stuff, but it was a little too rigorous for me. I was like, affordable housing is my thing. Yeah.
No, real. Really, and before we transition to segment 2, I have to ask, right? Because again, you went to college, university in Canada, worked in city planning, but in conversations I've had with non-U.S. educators, non-U.S. industry professionals, they've mentioned, right, that they look to the U.S. either for inspiration, or either to model, or either to replicate. What y'all doing over there?
So I will say that I actually considered, and I'm still considering working in New York. Because I think when it comes to like diversity, inclusion, being really creative with city planning, there are a lot of really cool like Black and people of color, like planners of color, that are really pushing right now in the States. So even for example, like right now, my workplace, we're applying for a project that has to do with like diversity inclusion with transit, and a lot of our like in the proposal, a lot of our examples to tell them like, hey, look what we can do came from our office in the States. So that just shows you like the States is really leading right now when it comes to like wanting to undo a lot of, redlining, keeping Black people out of communities, out of home ownership, gentrification. Like there are a lot of progressive Black planners that are speaking against it, that are an example to us here in Canada. So yeah.
People gonna listen to that and be like, what the hell is she talking about?
I know. But you know what it is because in Canada, first of all, there are way more Blacks in America, just by history and stuff, right? Two, as a result, I think the voices are just louder and you guys attack it. Like you guys are on it. Canada, it takes us a little bit. Like we're like, oh, inclusion. Okay, here, like it's a little bit slower. So I'm telling you, it wasn't until the whole George Floyd thing that now there are actual projects coming out to look at how city planning has been racist, to look at how we can make things more equitable. And I've never really like seen these project proposals come out like this, the way that they're coming out now since like before the whole George Floyd situation.
So okay, so let's, because again, honestly, we're gonna collaborate again for sure. We could easily have a conversation without any structured questions, and I feel that, and I love that for us. However, I have seen on y'all's university and colleges websites like indigenous people scholarships for indigenous folks. I'm like, I ain't never seen nothing like that in the US. And I've seen like, if you Black, if you identify as a person of color, you know, non-white or non-Canadian, I guess, here's your application route. I'm like, that would never happen.
Really?
Hell no. No. I mean, there's still people fighting against affirmative action.
Yeah. So the thing is, okay, the same different levels of treatment. Okay, different levels of treatment, but Canada, the Canadian government owes a lot to the Indigenous people, right? Like we are on their land, and right, and they mess. The US too, but go ahead. Exactly, and they've goofed a lot in, you know, trying to make reparations and resolutions and reconciliation. They throw out these words every couple of years, right? Yeah. So it hasn't been recently that, you know, people have like change makers, advocates have really been pushing it on them. So now I think a certain amount of schooling is free for Indigenous people. I think there are also some things that are like tax exempt, but they're owed that, right? And then in terms of Black people, I think, I'm seeing a lot more forms. If I'm applying for work or if I'm applying to volunteer or apply for like content creation related things, I am starting to see like, you know, check this box if you're a Black person, check this box if you're a Black woman, you know, like, and it's starting to like, right? Yeah. So wait, that's not in the States? No, please don't. I mean, yes, but not like.
But y'all weren't checking boxes, like y'all didn't have to check a box before. You know, she laughing.
I mean, like. Honestly, that stuff is recent. When I applied to college, I didn't have to check. I don't think I checked the box if I was like Black or African or so. I don't think so.
Wow. I love this shit. Let me ask you this then, because you mentioned the DEI piece, right? And so there's definitely perception of like what DEI in the US looks like across gender, sexual identity, etc. Like, what is it? Again, you're not the spokesperson for Canada, but you might be. Of course. Yeah. I'll say you are. It's your shit now. But like, what's the conversation on DEI look like and feel like right now in Canada?
So the thing with exclusion and racism in Canada is, in America, it can be very overt. It's very in your face. Like, you know when someone is being racist towards you. In Canada, it's hidden. So while it may not seem to hurt us directly in that time, it hurts us in the long run, because then people can't even agree that it exists, so we can't address it.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So that's what it is. So now, after, again, it's sad that this is what had to happen, but it was after George Floyd, and in the last, I want to say like 3 to 5 years, that we've really seen positions for diversity and inclusion in the office. Even my company, we're really seeing, you know, Women's Day, there wasn't just a focus on all women. There was, okay, Black women, where are you? Women in the LGBTQ plus community, where are you? Like, we're now, you know, disseminating diversity and inclusion and what that actually looks like in the last like few years. And those conversations are getting better. But you will still see very few Black colleagues in the office. Like, I think there are 3 of us in my department of like 30 or so, right? So we're still like few in corporate Canada and certain spaces. We're making our way in there. We're advocating, but I think those positions and those conversations are becoming louder. Yeah.
So corporate Canada, I never heard that.
I know, everyone else just corporate American lumps it all.
All right. The corporate Canada. Is that an organization? What the hell is that? No, that's funny though. That's actually hilarious.
That's so funny.
Like I told you, I stumbled upon, I think you had followed me on Instagram, followed Walk With TFB on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was like, but what? BWID, whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I was like, what is it? So I started listening to the episodes, you know what I'm saying, tuned down. I was like, oh shit, next episode, oh shit. But I love how like you tap into like transition to segment 2. You tap into like, you know, current events and programs in the city or in the country, the province. like what people watching on TV.
Wow, I like that you know that's a province. Okay, because province is like equal
Come
to
on, don't,
states. Okay,
don't,
great, great,
don't,
great.
come on. I'm a global educator. You feel
Yes,
me?
I
Like
like
this.
that. I like that.
I done told you I done been around the continent. But like the events, the TV shows, of course, but then the music. I like that segment, the music. And
Yeah.
let me tell you a quick secret. It's not a
Yeah.
secret right now. It's gonna be aired in the next couple weeks or so.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been a few songs that you have shared. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
the US ain't heard this one yet.
Yeah.
And so I said, like, I tell my friends, like, yo, listen to this song in those video games by Sun.
Yeah.
Like, yo,
Oh yeah.
listen to this song, yo. They're like, oh my God, how you find? Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Now I'm telling them,
Just
don't
not
worry
putting
about
you
it.
on.
But I said, listen to this song, right? Yeah, I think you're gonna like it. But what do I know?
Yeah. Let me just clap for you right now. Because you use that perfectly. That is exactly how I intended that phrase to be used these days.
I'm glad I caught you off guard too. So talk to us. 2020, you launched it.
Yes.
Where did this come from? Why that phrase? I mean, give us the history.
So, but what do I know? The podcast and the community I launched in August of 2020. But I've been thinking about doing a podcast for, I want to say like a year or two before, because I started getting into podcasts in like 2018. And then it was just, man, time. And I was a student. And that's why I reached out to you and I was like, I don't know how you're a PhD student, you're an educator, and you are so consistent with your podcast, man. Like, great job and keep it up. Because being a student, I was really focused on that. And after that, I was on my grind to find full-time work, moving from contract work. So I wasn't really like in the space to think about starting this podcast. Then we get to August 2020, me and my friend, who's sort of like my brand partner right now, she designed my logo. Like I had sketched on Twitter, I want this, I want it to look super black, I want it to be sarcastic, all this stuff. And she was like, okay, like let me play around with some things. So me and her had been thinking about it, thinking. And then we were making the logo and stuff. And she was like, I think you're ready to launch August 2020. And I was like, are you sure? I don't know. So, I created the Instagram page and like, did all like the intro post and saying, launching soon, all that kind of jazz. And yeah, we launched and the reception was good. Obviously, when you're an independent podcast, like you can't expect overnight success. If that's your story, cool. But there's a process and a grind to it. But it was just so nice to like get my voice out there to see that, man, like what I have been thinking about can actually be put to fruition. And the phrase itself, it's funny. That's something that I used to say a lot, and I'm trying to get out of the habit of saying, no, but what do I know? In a way to sort of like dim what I know. And then one day I was workshopping a lot of titles. I wrote them down, and I think I said it to my sister when we were at home, and my sister was like, "Huh, but what do I know? That would be a cool podcast name." And I was like, I'm gonna write that down. So I wrote it down and then I was like, okay. And I was just thinking about it and the ways that like this phrase actually means a lot to people of color, especially Black people. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna run with it. But what I want to do is I want to flip it and make it a sarcastic phrase so that in this community, on this platform, we're affirming that you know your shit. We're affirming your experience, we're affirming your lived experience, we're affirming your education, and we're affirming all that you are, so that you too can also sarcastically tell people, what do I know? So that's sort of, the thought behind the platform.
First episode, what was the pilot?
Yeah, first episode was the pilot. We talked about, so it's so funny. I actually took that episode down. I'm a recovering perfectionist. It was an episode on, it was called Minding Our Black Business. And it was about like, again, this was post the whole George Floyd, and there was this big rush to support Black businesses. But one thing is that people are also very hypercritical of Black businesses and of anything Black, really. Like it's always either compared to, oh, but I was never as good as them. The white folks have theirs organized. I was just, so I had done it was basically like not a rant, an organized rant of me saying, like these are businesses to support. Why, when you're supporting Black businesses, keep in mind that this is what we have stacked against us before you start being hypercritical about them, right? And then I don't know, I later took it down because I was like, man, I don't like the way I recorded this. I don't like the way I sound. Like it was a process of me getting used to hearing my voice, my thoughts. And that's one thing too, like when they say like, it may not be perfect, but put it out there. That's what I live by now, because I think that your story and your thoughts are important. And even if it's just for you to like vent it out, do it for yourself. Like it's important. So yeah, but thank God we've grown. I found my footing. I found what works for me. And now, about to launch season 3 later, like in this quarter. I feel like I'm in a place where I have a rhythm. I'm good. I have, even the way that I reach out to guests, that I connect with people, collaborate. I've gotten into like a rhythm and swing of things. I'm like, okay, cool. I got this. So yeah, we
That's
rolling.
excellent. That's excellent. And you mentioned in the description of it's a podcast, a platform, and it's a brand. I'll be upfront and saying that it's all three. And all three can be done at the same time. But you mentioned that it is a space, right? A platform, a brand that is affirming us, right? Why is that essential? And that sounds like a rhetorical question, but there are people both in the US and in the Canadian context, those will stick right there, well, Nigerian, for those, tuning in, that it may look and or hear and or feel different. So like, why is it essential to create a platform that affirms us, stick within the Canadian setting, given that's where your podcast is housed?
Because quite frankly, in Canada, we don't have a lot of spaces that do this for us. We just don't.
I hear you. And again, I hear you. I hear you every time. Again, one dude got elected in 2016, right? Everyone's like, I'm going to Canada.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to Canada. I done seen Caravana. You know what I'm saying? I've been to Toronto. You know what I'm saying? I hear you. It's like unpack that, unravel it for us.
Because we're growing and we're how do I say this? Man, our numbers are growing, our voices are getting louder, but we're not the mainstream yet. Let me tell you, like, we don't have a lot of options to mainstream media here where you can see raw, authentic Black conversations. We just don't in Canada. Like, we're a lot more conservative than some people in the States may think us to be. Like, and that's why I always say, like, that whole, like, racism is it's an undertone. We're very conservative. Like, Toronto's great, but if you drive an hour up where it's just bushes and forests, like, people are mad racist. Like, so the mainstream is still very white. Like, that's one thing that I think the US has far surpassed us in. Again, you guys have the numbers, it's just the media covers it. So we actually need a lot more non-traditional forms of media that have these sort of conversations here. Whether even a podcast, even look at our music. True. Like, people get to a certain level in Canada. We don't have the facility and the infrastructure for creatives. Deuces, exactly. They go to LA. So yeah, I think especially for like the media creative sort of thing, we just right now don't have the infrastructure to facilitate creatives and stuff. And people are pushing and trying to build it, but it's gonna take time.
Funny you said that. I just told my friends that there's a number of, to what many people thought were American artists, or US American artists, that are really Canadian.
Yep.
I mean,
I'm sure Tory Lanez shocked you all.
He definitely did. Obviously, Drake, he playing in Canada, but Bieber. Ain't Celine Dion from a freaking
Celine Dion is Canadian.
And The Weeknd.
The Weeknd
but,
is
like, there's a lot of like
pop
and
they're
stars.
Coming up now.
Yeah. And so y'all, I mean, growing up, I mean, you moved again as I keep saying early double digits, but like 10 years old.
Exactly.
Like growing up, like did people you were connected to like legit look to the US and like for the culture, for the TV, for the music?
Absolutely. Like Hollywood is like, Canadians look to Hollywood. There's an American Idol, we make our Canadian Idol. There's this Big Brother, we make our Big Brother Canada. Like, we sort of, piggyback off a lot of what America does. And it's sort of looked as the pinnacle for like just commerce. I think that's what America has really proven to be, is this like economic powerhouse. So if you're trying to make money, that's what, like that's the narrative they tell anyway, right? If you're trying to make money, you want to be in the States, you want to be in LA, you want to be in New York. So yeah, people long for that.
It's probably true, but it's also the reason why we're not gonna go over this COVID shit anytime soon.
Exactly.
Anytime soon. That you mentioned this, and we talked about earlier a little bit about the relationship between the US and Canada. But in particular, again, you created your own podcast, right? You created your own community in co-construction with others. And so how have you challenged what the status quo is as it relates to always looking to the US for inspiration, always looking to the US to model. How have you challenged that and censor that in your own podcast platform and brand?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I still struggle with that because I still
Honest.
feel like even when I started my podcast, a lot of my inspiration were American podcasts, right? So what I'm trying to do, and I'm really making it like it's a purpose for me now, is I'm trying to center Canadian guests more so often. I'm trying to show that we do have those experts and we do have that talent here. I'm trying to center more like Canadian stories. So that's I'll say, like if you're in Ontario, if you're in Toronto, we got this event going on, we got that, right? And I'll still pull from American like stories and experiences and news because man, we can't help it. Your politics is big, it's bigger than ours sometimes, and we have to talk about it, right? But I'm trying to show that, we have relevant, important talent, expertise, and stories in the Canadian landscape as well. I think also just challenging this idea that, if you only have a Black audience, your show or your podcast can't do numbers is something I'm also trying to disprove. I was talking to someone, funny enough, they were also in the States and they were like, oh, like, it's I was telling them that, oh, I liked this podcast. I think the podcast was called Balanced Black Girl or Black Girl Bravado. And they were like, well, once you put Black Girl in there, your podcast isn't going to get past a certain number. And I was like, okay. And then the person was saying, like, you're going to need to broaden up. Like, look at the big podcast. They don't only cater to just Black. And I was like, whoa, okay. So you're telling me that I can't attract and grow this community, like serving and catering to the people that I want to serve? Interesting. Okay. So I think that's something that I'm not saying that I'm on this like revenge, like I'm gonna get them, but it's just something at the back of my mind. Like that's not true and it can be disproved and you get there. So yeah.
You don't got to be on revenge. I am, yo. I had a whole fucking episode about that. Like, our podcast is Black on purpose.
Exactly.
We amplify Black voices on purpose. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had one non-Black guest since this podcast started. That whatever, super instrumental. Shout out to Michael Goodman. Super instrumental in my educational journey. So again, to your point, I'm not
exactly.
Respectfully, come on, join the pod, join the walk. However, you can grow this shit with your own people.
Yeah.
If and to your point, right? Because you talk about it being a podcast, being a platform, being a community. When people come together in community and do the work together.
Exactly.
And so that's why I always try to say like community work, community success, community work, community work, community work. And so it's been what 2 years?
Yeah, not like
2 years.
Yeah.
Year and a half. So like, how have you seen, not just seen the community and the platform grow, but also like, what are some strategies or almost like coincidences, if you will, that have also helped the community grow as well?
Yeah. So one thing that I keep trying to like rack my brain right now on figuring out is ways to talk to the community outside of just Instagram, right? Like, because one thing about podcasts too is podcast is a very passive medium. They have you in their ear, they're listening to you while they're cleaning or working, and then great podcast, cool. Let me maybe put a rate in to let that creator know I like their stuff, and that's it. It's very passive. And not everybody feels like engaging on Instagram, but I've been trying to, be purposeful about my posts and ask questions more and more now that I'm comfortable. Because one thing about me is I also, this whole like being big on the internet, getting known, I'm really not for that. I just want to serve, make my money, be comfortable with my family, and peace. Y'all enjoy the rest. But I'm finding that, to also grow a community and to serve, you also have to find out what the community needs, right? So finding that I'm trying to talk back. I'm asking. So like I did a poll, for season 3, what topics are you all interested in? And people actually responded. And so now, and what I'm liking is what people are suggesting are things that I'm also interested in and things that I even have lined up. So I'm like, okay, great. First of all, I know I have the right people in my community, because if y'all were telling me to put in something like, oh, what do we bring to the table? I would know I have some interesting people in my community, So I think it's finding creative ways to talk and to engage your community. But I kind of want to ask you, like, what are you doing to sort of like talk to and engage your community? Because it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And it's something, to your point, I'm also thinking about right now. And the one thing that's been helpful is doing Twitter chats.
See, people forget Twitter, but Twitter is lit for that.
Twitter is lit. And so whether it's a conversation about something that was discussed on the podcast and or something that's just big in the media, the news right now, So that's been one to help grow, expand the reach. Two, and it's something I'm going to be doing. I might start it next month if I can get the equipment, but doing live shows. And so my thing, and I know you could easily do this. You could easily let me know when you do your first one. I'm renewing my passport right now, so I can pull up. But for me, to your point about the community building, right? You're a city builder, you're a community builder, you're a storyteller. It's like my shit, our shit is for us. And so if I can bring the show like to us, it has more of a real feel to it, right? And particularly, and you probably see my posts. I drink a lot of beer, go to a lot of breweries, and so like hosting the podcast at a brewery.
Yeah,
I'm not supposed to be there. Black people not supposed to be there. But if I can host a joint there where I already have influence, already have an audience, I think it can build more affinity with our walk together. Like to your point, I'm still thinking. I'm like, do I go? I've gone a TikTok route, so I started posting the reels on TikTok as well. I need to be more consistent with that, but I'm not giving up. But I'm definitely looking for inspiration from other creators as well.
Right. And thank you for sharing that too, because I think that's something that, us as community builders, and this is where, if you're listening to this episode and you like this podcast, like, please tell Tim that you're enjoying the podcast. Like sometimes we just want to hear, listen, that conversation was important because, creators, like, we love creating things, but sometimes, we just need a little information and confirmation that we're on the right track,
That's real. That's real. I'll say this too before I forget. We hosted a black vaccine hesitancy panel, March 21.
That's sick.
So it wasn't part of like the part. Well, I downloaded the audio and uploaded to the
streaming and stuff.
Yeah, thank you. But like it was put it on YouTube, right? So people can access it that way too. So I think being able to step out of the traditional like weekly podcast episodes and say, like, yo, we're gonna host like monthly conversations with whatever Toronto leaders, city leaders, whatever the case may be. Right, doing a Q&A with them, like that could also then be like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm thinking more, I'll just outside the box like that too.
Exactly. No, I like that. And even what you said about the live shows, that's something I'm thinking about. I'm trying to do some sort of a get together to thank the listeners this year.
Come on, man, you got that for you already. Hey, do it at a plant shop. I'm giving you all my ideas. You do it in Canada. I'm gonna do it at a plant shop in Charlotte. I really want to do it at. But like just like be in that space.
If you do yours too, you gotta let me know. I'll fly out.
Come on, yo, you got your passport renewed? It's straight. All right. It's straight. No, good. So as you think about community building, as you think about storytelling, where are you going? Right? Where are you going with the platform? What are you thinking about in regards to like what's next as you begin to launch season 3? Like where are you headed?
Man, that's a really great question. I think where am I headed? You make plans and then life alters them. They say, we make plans and God laughs. But I think where I would like to see this platform, go and grow into is just becoming a hub for really critical conversations with Black people, people of color. I would love for this to grow. I'm gonna knock on every single wood piece right now. I would love for this to grow into a physical space where creators can come and record podcasts, do media stuff, and I'm kind of dubbing the listeners in our community in the know. So if you're in the know, we're bringing you in the know with us. You understand things. Is a space for whether it's where I can connect you with guests, like if you're wanting to do your PhD, you have that easy connect with Tim if he's a guest, and so I'm thinking of ways to sort of expand this community to like really make an impact outside of just the conversation. So we thinking.
I like that shit. You're this year and a half, August, 4 or 5.
Yeah, we're thinking, and obviously, like, it's a process, right? It takes time. Sure. I think that's one thing. Like, please, y'all, don't let the internet fool you to let you think that things can be accomplished in a day. Like, things take time, and you really have to enjoy the process, or else you quit. So
that's big facts. That is big facts. But the last 18 months, I mean, really 4 years, but the last 18 months in particular, since you launched the podcast, the platform, the community, what have you learned about yourself? And what are you continuing to learn about yourself?
I've learned that I'm creative. That's not something I considered myself before even starting this. I always looked at myself as someone who was very like more technical, go to school, I can read, I can memorize, I can get good grades. And then to me, it was like creatives are, those people over there. They might draw, they might create music, But now I'm like, no, I'm creative. I'm creative in the ways that I plan out my episodes, my conversations. So that's one thing, is I'm creative. And two, I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't really see it, but even now, like, because a podcast is a business, like
Yeah.
it's a business. And we're independent creators. Like, I'm an entrepreneur by the way that I think about this. Even this, like making sure you're on time for your interviews or guests and stuff, right? Or
Mhm.
being
Mhm.
organized, putting systems in place, having other people that work for me help me create a logo and stuff. It's all part of business. Now, if that revenue would just come in,
Sure.
we would make it official. But yeah, it's taught me that I'm creative and that I'm an entrepreneur.
That's
Yeah.
real. That's super
Yeah.
real. So as we transition to segment three, my second favorite question on this podcast. How
Mm,
can how can our
mm.
podcast community, how can the U.S. Again, I'm the president now. How can the U.S. best support you, your platform, your work?
Um, free flights for Canadians to the
Hi,
US.
yo.
Cheaper flights maybe for Canadians. Um, but the obvious is, listening to the podcast, the But What Do I Know podcast. You can connect with me on Instagram and Twitter at BWDIK podcast, so just listening to the podcast, really taking in these conversations, um, contributing. I'm open. I want to hear from you as well. um, you know, feedback, topics, and so on. And just if you're a creator too, I want to also support you. Let's share and let's just really see where we can go and what we can build together. Um, and yeah, just being open to conversations that of healing, of affirmation, like deeper conversations. I think I'm happy that we're having a lot of platforms like yours, like mine, so many others that are really like center and important conversations for growth for our community. And I
Mhm.
just want to see more of that. So what I would say, listeners, is yeah, just be open and accepting to conversations that are maybe deeper than just your mainstream conversations, and don't look at them as necessarily, oh man, that's boring, I'm trying to listen to this one over here. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yo, Chid said, put down the true crime podcast.
Yeah, put
Tired
down
of
the
seeing that
Joe
shit.
Rogan.
Yeah, put down the Joe Rogan podcast. We tired of seeing that shit. I'll say it. You don't gotta say it. I'll say it. Damn. Put that shit down and pick up. But what do I know?
you know
God damn.
yeah.
Yeah, people say that. Listen to podcast. Which ones? True
True
crime. God
crime.
damn,
I'm
bro.
like,
Dang.
I'm like, man, how much crime do you need to listen to? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, that's real. That's super real. Well, before we bounce, I got a few questions for you. Shouldn't be too hard.
Mm,
First of which, what's your favorite sports memory?
sports memory. Ooh, when I was accepted into the basketball team, I think I was in like grade 8. Yeah, grade 8. And I was like, ooh, and they were like, oh yeah, you're tall. I'm 5'7". They're like, you're pretty tall. You can do this. And I like shocked myself. I was doing my thing. That, and when I won finals in relay, I think I was in that grade 7. Yeah, in relay. So I used to be a track star. She's a runner.
Oh,
She's a
okay, she's
track
all right.
star.
Yeah, okay. Hey, come on, man. Come on. Hey, the references travel. They travel across borders too.
Yeah, exactly.
They travel across borders. You on TikTok?
Ish.
Ish. Oh, never mind.
You're about to ask my favorite TikToker?
No, or TikTok like sound or TikTok like
Oh, man, that's hard. What's your favorite TikTok sound?
my favorite one right now is a tomato, tomato, tomato.
Oh yeah, the boo boo tomato
That,
tomato
that junk, that junk got
tomato.
me that junk got me crying, yo. This next question
Yeah.
gonna be funny though. Not funny, it's gonna be I'm very curious, exploratory. Your top 5 musical artists. No
Ooh.
rank, no rank, one through five, just top 5. They're all number one.
Ooh. Okay, Wizkid.
Okay.
Western. They're a group out of the Afro-Caribbean group out of the UK.
Okay.
Ooh, I need an R&B girl in there. Mary J. Blige.
Oh my gosh. That ain't the most US fucking answer. Yo, I respect it. Respect.
Yeah, as I said, Wizkid, Western, Mary J. Blige. I need 2 more. J. Cole. Um, I need 1 more. I need another R&B girl. I want to say Summer Walker, but she's not earned that yet. Let me just look at my Apple Music real quick.
I ain't gonna lie, yo. Summer Walker's Over It album is a top. That's gotta be my top.
Oh, Tiana Taylor.
Over Summer Walker?
Hi.
I mean, okay, it's your top 5. It's your top 5. It's your
just
top
because
5.
that last album that Tiana put, also when Tiana came here, I definitely had to go see her. But because that album was fire.
Was it better than Over It though?
No, Over It was definitely better than that.
I wanted to say Over It. Like, that album is up there with, like, in my opinion, like with like people they're gonna hit my DMs with this one, but like Confessions, like Sideline Story, it's up there. Take Care. It's like it's a no skip album.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Can we put Tiana and Summer together as a package?
That's fine. Okay, we challenge shit here. We challenge shit. I said 5, you give me 5. That's 1.
Exactly.
Respect, yo.
That's
While we're on artists real quick, how do y'all feel about Drake up there? How do you feel about Drake?
I like him. I think, shout out to him for claiming Toronto from the very beginning. He was on Degrassi, started on Degrassi in a chair. He was on Degrassi. And then obviously was signed to Lil Wayne and Young Money, all that great stuff. But I like that he, always repped Canada. He's always put in parts of Toronto and stuff in his music videos, like that last video where he put the TTC, the subway, and all that stuff in there. I think he's a cool artist, but I think more than being an artist, I think he's just really good at understanding trends in the music industry. Like I don't think that he's the biggest lyricist. I don't think that his music will always make you think and will, something that you like will save on your phone. But he's just like, he can recognize a trend and pattern and he can run with that and make money. So
I like how you said that. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah,
because when Hotline Bling came out, I mean,
I was like, what? Come on, what is this?
What's your favorite Drake album? I got you on here.
The one, if you're reading this, it's too late. That one,
respect.
That was a mixtape, right? It wasn't an album.
That's fine. As long as you don't say Take Care. Anyone that says Take Care is not a real Drake fan. Like that don't count. Mine is Views. Views is the best album.
Views is good too. Oh yeah, Views.
Sitting on the CN Tower. You know what I'm saying?
Like, Views was the one with with Rihanna.
Too Good, One Dance.
Yeah. And that was the one.
Passion Fruit, I think, was on the album.
Was that summer? Yes. Was that Summer 16? Was on
Summer
that too?
16.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Yeah. Views is a close one for me too. Okay.
If you could go to brunch with 5 people, you plus 5 people, bottomless brunch.
Yeah.
They can be either living and or not living right now. Any point in history. What are you bringing?
Okay. I'm bringing Barack Obama.
Sure.
Kind of want to bring his wife too, but let's see that for the end. So I'm bringing Barack Obama, Drake, because why not Drake? Drake. Yeah, Barack Obama, Drake. I don't know if you know who she's, like a entertainment journalist, Scotty Beam. So I'm gonna bring her. Who else? LeBron James. Wow, this is a lot of men. The women might not be too happy.
Look, this is your list.
Okay, so yeah, Barack.
Sister, you trying to drink and look, but go ahead.
Right? I said Barack, Drake, Scotty Beam. And then I said, I just said someone I can't remember. LeBron. Damn. Last one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oprah? Yeah, just because that interview, were you silenced or were you silenced? I would like some tips. I would like some interview tips, miss. Yeah,
I forgot about that. That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. But Chid, the last question for you, yo. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be anybody in the world. But who do you want to see and or hear from on this podcast?
Ooh, on your podcast.
They can't be from the US. I'll tell you that right now.
From your podcast, who do I want to see? I don't know if you know him. He's a Toronto Raptor, Fred VanVleet. He's really cool.
You know Freddie?
Okay, not personally, but I know about him. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yo, it's okay. I'm glad. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Explain.
Fred, because so he recently actually just launched a podcast too, trying to like, help entrepreneurs and stuff, I think from Toronto. I just feel like he's getting on his philanthropic vibe and he's good on the court too, good personality. I think that'll be a nice match for your podcast. Yeah. Fred.
Yo, I'm trying to tell you, God is good. Because you mentioned but the whole, but what do I know? Right.
Yeah.
But what do I know? Right. But took me back to his very first, to Freddie's, I call him Freddie, his very first podcast where he talked about like qualifying. You got to qualify yourself. You got to qualify yourself. And I feel like we do that a lot as Black people. Like, how to feel like we got to qualify ourselves. Now
exactly.
I'm like, fuck that. I'm talking my shit. Y'all gonna hear this shit and y'all gonna see this shit at the same time.
Exactly. Like,
respectfully.
Don't feel it. Like, respectfully. Yeah, exactly.
All right, Lacey. I got a homegirl that works for the Raptors. I told us I need to get Freddie on here.
Yo,
Freddie or Pascal, I guess Siakam. Siakam be cool, but Freddie.
Siakam be cool too. But Fred first. Sorry, Pascal.
I know. Anything else you want to share with the people before we bounce?
No, that's everything. I've shared the podcast. Y'all keep listening to Walk With TFB. This is an amazing platform. Thank you so much again for having me. I'm looking forward to all the feedback from our conversation, and we're definitely going to collab. I already I can see your conversation that I want you on. Someone shared they want an episode on toxic masculinity, and I already did a little bit, but I want to dive even deeper into like Black manhood, and and I feel like you got the balance that I need. Yeah,
I'll keep it a buck. I'll be honest. I'm in therapy. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and I'm
unlearned. I'm telling you. Yeah, I feel like that's all our generation is doing. We learning and unlearning. So
you know what? Let me know. Let me know. Yeah, I can't say too much right now, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Nah, but Chid, thank you so much for honestly starting your platform. One, for being you, 1A, if you will, for starting your platform, your podcast. Because truly, I have learned a lot from your podcast.
Yeah.
Though I'm confused when you talk about the events in Toronto, I'm glad I'm confused because it reminds me that the world is bigger than just the US.
That is
I love
true.
it. So I'm looking at my day, I'm like, what's going on in Toronto?
Yeah.
I think it was like a winter show, winter light show.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the different.
Okay, that sounds cool. Okay. So I love it, y'all. I love it. I'm learning with you, walking with you.
Yes. Thank you for walking with me.
The only time I'll say, but what do I know is when I'm talking about your podcast.
Amen. Exactly. You got it.
For everyone else, man, thank y'all again for tuning in to another episode of Walk With TFB. Look forward to having more unfiltered conversations with individuals who live outside of the U.S. It's a global platform. It's a global platform doing community work. And so I'm excited to see where this conversation goes, but also where we go as a community as we can continue to close out season 4, but also prepare for season 5. As always, until then, welcome.